guys will have sex with women, but then we'll feel that praying with them is too intimate.
Men generally are already insecure about the things that you're pointing out. Like these little things
Lord, show him this is not where the hand towels go.
No, not that kind of prayer. Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I have my cutie patootie here.
Enoch.
No, my husband Jordan.
Hello.
You guys know we have a podcast together. Normally we do podcasts together, but because of the video I posted 2 videos ago talking about 7 ways to have your husband drooling over you, I was like, wait a minute. We should have Jordan speak on the other way and share some kind of insight as to what he does to have me drooling over him, because I feel like that is just insightful to get into the mind of another man.
I'll say it's hard for me to sit here and be like, here's how to do this. I'm an expert in this thing. When oftentimes it's like 1 or 2% of the time that something actually works. So I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm not speaking from a position of a rival. I'm speaking from a position of, hey, these are things that's actually worked out for me. Here's what hasn't worked out. And so it's mostly learning from failure.
Well, and we just want to have this conversation for wives to know what to pray over for their husbands. What we don't want to encourage you to do is angrily text this video to your husband and be like, you need to do these this week. We really want it to be from a place of you having had already tried the 7 things that I suggested in the last video and apply those for months at a time, because it's not going to be just you showing up and hugging him at the door one time that's going to shake your entire marriage. It's probably going to be a couple of years of doing that. It's going to be years of being kind. It's going to be years of being generous. Like especially if you've been married for a long period of time and there's years of resentment and just breaking of bad habits, starting these new habits and doing them several times is what will make the big difference. It's not just doing it once and not seeing a difference and be like, well, this is stupid, and throwing in the towel.
Yeah, like Milena said, if chances are you're not a husband watching this, you're probably a wife or a fiance or girlfriend. What not to do would be, from my perspective, wouldn't be to like text this or say this or force your husband, boyfriend, fiance to sit down and watch this video with you and be like, sit down, you need to do all this stuff. It has the opposite effect that it should, where it's like, okay, now it's just a comparison game, or it's somebody who appears to have it all together and they're perfect, and like, why are you not like this? Because that's how it's going to come off. And I would say just try to take what we're doing real quick and then just try to initiate it yourself. You be the one to initiate it. Whoever's watching this right now, congratulations, you get to be the initiator. Do it in a way that's not expecting reciprocity right away. Like Milena said, it's going to take a while. So if you're initiating with no expectation of, okay, I've been the one implementing all of these things for 2 days now, what the heck, why is he not, reciprocating that? Don't get discouraged. Just pray for God to change his heart, and you keep doing you, sister.
Yes. I actually have an encouraging thing real quick. If you are married to a non-believer, there was this lady who was married for 70 years, and it wasn't until their 67th year of marriage that her husband accepted the Lord.
Wow.
And she was a faithful, she was the wife that God calls us to be for all of those years. And her husband, there's a verse that says that our holiness comes from the other. I'll have to find one, but it says that the wife's holiness comes from her husband and her husband's holiness comes from the wife.
Oh, is that 1 Corinthians 11?
I need to find the verse and we'll write it all out. But basically it talks about a wife's holiness being found through her husband and her husband's holiness being found through the wife when one is saved versus the other one. So that's just a little bit of an encouragement, because sometimes I feel like we are just so quick to be like, wow, I did that one time, why am I not seeing these effects when you had been doing the other way 500 times prior to that? So it really is just be prayerful about these things. So, all right, honey, what is your first point? So just like I had 7 different points, I thought it'd be funny for Jordan to have 7 as well, to just keep on with the little theme that we had going. So what is your first one?
My first point to have your wife drool over you is to pay attention to her. I mean, there's active listening and then there's passive listening, right? Like no TV, no phone, no multitasking on something else, like you're working on something, or even eating. I guess it's different if you're out on a date, right? But if you're doing nothing but just sitting here and staring her in the eye and she's talking to you about, whatever that is on her heart, like, hey, what's on your heart? What's on your mind? Talk to me. I think that's probably going to be very weird for a lot of guys at first. That's going to feel uncomfortable. And I'm going to say this now, and again, at another point, I'm going to reiterate it, but I heard a pastor recently say, guys will have sex with women, but then we'll feel that praying with them is too intimate.
Or
it's
like looking into their eyes is too intimate.
There's no more intimate action act than sexual intercourse.
Right.
Which is why it's reserved for your spouse. But then to think that what's the most intimate thing you could do spiritually with your spouse, I would argue that one of them at least is to pray with each other. It's just ironic that guys are like quick to take their pants off, but when it comes to like praying together, whoa, that's a little too like close to the heart, that's a little, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's just something where you feel vulnerable or exposed or naked spiritually. Yes. So if you're able to give full attention, and again, I'm going to keep saying this is me, like Paul in Philippians 3, not to say I've arrived yet, but I'm straining and I'm striving towards this. So that's my posture, and this whole thing is I'm a work in progress, all right? So anything that I say is speaking from that level and not, okay, I'm up here and everyone else is down here. So as I do that to Milena, she's like, wow, he's actually paying attention. He's actually listening. I'm more important to him than whatever he's doing right now. Like, he can stop and pay attention to me.
And can I add that I think in order for you to get to the place where you feel, one, comfortable enough to look at me in the eyes and talk to me, you first have to feel respected by me. And I think me respecting you is what will allow you to do that. But if every time I'm approaching you, it's nagging, which is my first point. My first point was to pray instead of nag. If I'm constantly approaching you with insults, nags, and complaining, there's no way you're going to feel safe and okay and respected and open enough to even have these conversations with me. So again, most of these I feel like starts with the wife, because we tend to go to these places and build up these relationships and habits and don't allow our husbands to get to that point.
Yeah, that's great. And even speaking from Milena's position, like even if your husband isn't worthy of honor and respect in your eyes, still give him that, because at the end of the day, it's positional honor, not deserved honor, if that makes sense.
Well, just like
I should honor Milena as my wife, regardless if I feel that day or that, like, in that moment that she's worthy of that, Yeah. Or and vice versa, right?
Isn't that what the Lord does to us? And isn't our relationship with our spouse supposed to be a reflection of Christ and the church?
God honors us by giving us the same inheritance as his children, right? The right to become sons of God. There's nothing we did to earn that.
Right.
So he's honoring us even though we're not honorable, right? And there's nothing redeeming of us but that Christ is in us. So in the same way, we have the same honor that we give our spouse, even if there's at times where we feel, or even justifiably, rightly so, that they aren't worthy of being honored. It's more so me saying like, yeah, I really did blow that, or I don't deserve Milena, or I don't deserve to be treated like this. But what an opportunity it is for you as a wife to be Christ-like in your love towards your husband, to say, you don't even have to say it because he probably already feels it. But just to be like, I still honor you, I still respect you, and regardless of what you do.
And live out 1 Corinthians 13, which is what love is. Love is kind, does not envy, it does not boast.
Keep record
of wrongs. It is not rude, it does not insist on its own way, it's not irritable or resentful, doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. All right, what's your second point, honey?
The second point is to notice the little things. So women are very, I would say, emotionally observant. They can pick up on things more so, generally speaking, than guys can when it comes to emotions and feelings and sensitivity. When you notice things like, oh, she styled her hair differently, or she's wearing a new outfit, those things go a long way. And it doesn't have to always be like external things, right? It could just be, hey, I noticed you changed this or you changed that. Or when we notice little things, those little things end up paving the way to the big things, and meaning having the same weight as something big. The more you can notice and just be mindful of those little things that are important to your wife, that goes a long way. And that's gonna, oh, he noticed that, or oh, he thought of me, those things like that really go a long way in getting your wife to drool over you. Isn't that the end goal, right?
Well, my second point was to be extremely kind and extremely generous. And again, I feel like it plays off of that. If I'm showing thankfulness and being extremely kind to him and the little things that he's doing, he's going to suddenly start noticing the little things that I'm doing. But like, there's default things that our husbands are doing too that we just don't even notice or realize.
Yeah, we should champion those too.
Yes.
Like champion that in your husband, because I'll give you an example, like this will come up later on too, but just in the realm of like protecting my wife's physical safety. As a husband, to have that championed and affirmed and reiterated to me hey honey, I feel safe with you. I feel, obviously, there's more to it than just physical safety, like emotional safety, spiritual, all that stuff, right, goes into that. But just in that one aspect of physical safety, that to me reminds me of my obligation and my God-given responsibility to care for her and her physical well-being. And for her to reiterate and champion that and affirm that in me is helpful, not only for reminding me of this is my role, but also to say, yes,
take ownership.
She trusts me, or her confidence is in the role that God has put me in.
Men already feel very insecure, and so men generally are already insecure about the things that you're pointing out.
Sometimes the things that like you beat your chest about the most, you're the most insecure about.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. So just be sensitive to that. Just be sensitive to the fact that they probably already feel insecure about the thing that you're bringing up all the time. With anyone, if I'm constantly bringing up to Jordan what he's doing wrong and only focusing on that, of course he's going to feel worse about that and not want to get better at that. But if I'm pointing out to him what he's really good at and really excellent at and just reminding him and being so thankful about these things, it takes the focus off of that. And then, he's like, okay, I got this. Now I can start working on this. I feel like I got this. Now I can do this too. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, what's your third point?
Number 3 is to pray with her and for her. Back to the whole, you'll get into bed and you'll have sex, but you won't pray with them because that's a little too intimate, right?
Yeah.
That to me is just hilarious because that was me. We kind of sort of prayed together, like maybe before a meal. Like that was like the extent of our praying together. Before bed or after date night or something, we would commit to praying out loud verbally.
Yeah.
That's weird at first. I get it. Like that's probably uncomfortable for a lot of couples, especially maybe a husband to do. But when you can be vulnerable like that, or if you're a wife, again, the goal isn't to say, honey, sit down. I'm chaining you to the couch. Whoa. I'm chaining you to the couch to watch this real quick. My 2 cents, my advice as a husband, say, hey, honey, I would love for you to pray over this situation that we're facing, or what can I be praying about for you? And then instead of just like him telling you what to pray for, and then you say, okay, great, I'll pray for you. Be like, let's pray right now. And then you hug him. You say, Lord, this, that, and the other. And in the moment, you can even say, is there anything you want to pray about, honey? And then he might pray for you or ask you, just pray about it. And pray with him and see what the Holy Spirit does. I think you'll be surprised. He might say, wow, thank you. Is there anything I can pray about for you? And then he'll do the same thing in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So the more you do that, the more comfortable you feel around each other. And like, I'll pray over Milena in the morning, like when had a really bad migraine or really bad stomach aches, and stuff like that. So just in the moment, being able to pray like little things like that become the big things, and you get more comfortable, and then your wife's affections are stirred. Like, ladies, imagine right now if your husband came up to you and put his hand on your head or on your heart or hugged you and embraced you and then just started praying over you, for you. Like, you can't tell me that wouldn't just make you go wild.
It is like that. It really is. Because, again, like I mentioned, and wait, did you mean to line yours up with mine? Because they're lining up so perfectly.
No, I didn't.
My third one was to be sexually generous. And when Jordan prays over me or is intentional about that, boy, do I want to be sexually generous. Because it's an emotional, you're like tapping into this emotional and into my soul. And it's like a different type of...
The physical and the emotional and the spiritual are all so interconnected.
So interconnected.
They all play off each other. Like, do you ever notice when something is heavy on your heart and in your spirit and you're just really weighed down and bogged down by some issue, you can also start feeling physically ill.
Or you don't want to eat.
Yes.
Like your physical body.
But that's not because of a physical issue. It's a spiritual or an emotional issue that's now spilling into. So we're not getting all weird on you. We're just saying like there's a connection there between.
It's the way God created us.
Yeah, we're
soul,
triune.
we have
body, soul, spirit, just as God is Father, Son, and Spirit. So
that.
They're all connected. So yeah, they definitely, one can affect the other essentially.
Yes. Just the last little point I want to make on this one is that when your husband does choose to pray over you, to encourage him, to not pick his prayers or to sit here and be like, oh, or like laugh. Just be mindful of your reaction to the prayer, Like, be mindful, because again, if someone's already really stepping outside of their comfort zone and they get mocked or like they get insulted, they're never gonna want to do that again. Just straight up. So just be so sensitive and in tune to that and just encourage them. All right, number 4.
Do things she'll appreciate without her having to tell you.
That's another one to get you sexually generous.
This applies especially if you're going to be like out of the picture or gone or maybe on like a work trip or working all day. And now we're getting to, particular dynamics and household rhythms and things like that, but we're just telling you from our perspective or our 2 cents. So for example, let me give you just one example of what I mean. Thursday mornings I have a early morning men's Bible study at 6 a.m. I know that normally there's a lot like the morning, if you win the morning you win the day kind of thing. That's so true and applies heavily in our house, especially
on our Thursdays. There's like specific days that specific things happen, and so that Thursdays tend to be like my busiest days because Jordan is gone so early and I have to tackle the morning. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, keep going.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, so I have study at 6 and I'm usually not home till like 9:30. By then, like, kids are up, breakfast, dogs, this, that, and the other, everything's already done, right? Like the first kind of whirlwind of the day is already gone and it's subsided. For me, I just wrote down here, I'm gonna read verbatim. Those early morning hours are crucial and help set the tone for the rest of the day. So if I put away dishes, start the laundry, prep breakfast before I leave, that's a big win. And yes, it's a bit more effort and I have to get up even earlier, right? Like if I say that's going to take 30 minutes to do all that, then I need to wake up 30 minutes earlier, or maybe 45 minutes, because usually the first 15 minutes I'm just like putzing around trying to like, oh, do I get up or not? Like contemplating what is life. But then I finally like get over myself and do that. So, but it pays off big time in the long run because that helps Milena out a ton, which isn't really a lot of extra work or effort on my end, but it helps tremendously. It pays like huge dividends on the back end because now Milena's waking up and she's like, all I have to do is like be with the kids and care for them, play with them, be present, and breakfast is already prepped, or there's minimal work that needs to be done now. I don't have to worry about unloading, so all those different things. It's pretty self-explanatory, but that goes a real long way too, versus...
It really does, and I'll be thanking for it later.
The days that I haven't done that, it's been really stressful and unfair for Milena, so now I'm like, okay, I gotta make every effort to do this and to stick to this because I'm getting time to be poured into myself, so I would feel guilty and like it'd be selfish if like I'm not returning that to Milena or reciprocating that from Milena. So apply that to your context. It might be like maybe your husband's gone early morning anyways, or maybe he's works a 12-hour shift or something, or maybe it's late at night, and so like, I don't know, it's just everyone's different, right? And so kind of figure out how that would apply to your context of how you might be able to help your wife and with whatever she might have to do. That can go a long way.
And it has like a domino effect, because now after that I'm like, oh great, what can I help him with? I know that he has to do, or what can I do as an extra step to serve him? And then the other thing is, when he does do that, please do not go and nitpick what and how he did it. It can be so easy to be like, well, you unloaded them wrong, or you put the things in the wrong spot, or that's not what I would pack for them, or this wasn't done right and you missed this spot in the counter. That is just so unproductive and shows such a heart of ungratitude and is only hardening your own heart. And I've been so guilty of this before, and it's not doing Jordan any justice and it's not doing me any justice. I am not Jordan's mom. Jordan is not our cleaning lady. There's just some things that we just have to be thankful for. He did the dishes. Sure, that dish doesn't go right there, but that's fine. It'll take you 4 seconds to put it back. Same thing with like, we've talked about this with Nava anytime we've had her on, the idea of like not putting the towel back where it goes. It's like, take an opportunity to pray for your husband while you're putting that back. It'll take you 4 seconds to do it. Like, these little things
Lord, show him this is not where the hand towels go.
No, not that kind of prayer. Like, just take that moment to Lord, pray over him.
Reveal this to him in this moment.
But these are the things. These are the little things that make your marriage the type of marriage that makes the enemy shake and fear. The other way around is the type of marriage that is going to lead to divorce. Which one do you want? Because it's in the little tiny things. It's in the little heart posture. It's in the little change that is going to make a difference in the type of marriage that you have.
That'll do. That'll preach.
Preach.
Number 5.
Can you see Kitty?
Yeah, he's like falling asleep.
All right, we gotta roll, honey.
Number 5, go to bed with her. I kind of chuckle at this because I'm like, oh yeah, duh, like it's bedtime, go to bed, right? For whatever reason, I feel like I get my second wind after I put the kids down around like 8 p.m.
And I cannot relate, because I get my second wind like right before I start dinner, and it carries me through until like 7:30, and then at 7:30, Jordan tucks the kids and I in.
I mean, 6:30, 7 p.m., whatever, something about how my body is wired around that time is probably irrelevant, but I'll share anyways. I could fall asleep standing up. Like that, I'm just cashed.
And he
at
has
that time.
before. Like, I've literally looked over him at dinner and he's like this.
I don't know what it is. Around that time, I got to figure that out, but I'm like dead to the world. But then 7:30, kids are bathed in their pajamas. Like I'm tucking them in, singing them goodnight songs. Like 8 o'clock, they're down. And I'm like, all right, playtime, you know? So then I'm like, okay, I can finally catch up on something that I was watching on TV or YouTube or whatever, or I can work on a task or like do something, you know, calming or unwinding or something like that. You know, that varies obviously for different people, but guys are guys kind of thing. I say that because I'll just be like hanging out and all of a sudden 2 or 3 hours go by. I'm like, oh wow, it's already 10 p.m. And Milena's been upstairs in bed waiting for me for an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. So then by the time I get up there,
I'm already sleeping.
Like she's gone, and I'm like, oh, probably should have gone to bed with her. I say this again, I haven't arrived, and I've been guilty of not doing this for a long time, but the times where I have done it, it's really been special. Like I still have to figure out how I can balance like time to unwind a little bit, if that makes sense, from the day, but also giving her the honor and respect of saying like even those things are not as important as being with you, ending the day together kind of thing. So still trying to figure out that balance, but that's kind of where we're at currently. And
most of the time that time at night is the only time that we really get together without interruption or without having other things grabbing our attention.
Yeah, this is unique right here because we're doing a video, but like we're not normally sitting here doing a video.
Jordan had to clear up his schedule for 3 weeks for me to get this.
But
Jordan's a very, very busy man. But, and then the other thing, again, apply this to what makes sense for you. Maybe you wake up early or your husband has to wake up really early. Do the extra step to join that time together. All right, number 6.
This is going to apply if you're a parent, especially, but if you have kids, randomly and spontaneously take them out, even if it's just for 30 minutes.
Yes.
It will give your wife a much needed and deserved break. And will also allow you time to bond more with your kids if that's not something regularly do without your wife's presence as well.
Yes.
Again,
that's huge.
I feel like our culture in a lot of ways is waking up to this. Whereas, you know, like the boomer generation, our parents and the previous generation were like, oh no, the wives are the ones doing everything with the kids, from changing them to feeding them to putting them down to naps to playing with them, and the husband just kind of there, you know. And I think that's changing for the better now. I think a lot of husbands and fathers are waking up to like, oh no, I need to actually be present and
emotionally available.
Yes. I've had some of the best bonding times with our kids when it's just me and them. You know, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like literally I'll go take them to the grocery store and they love going in like those little carts that have a car. So like you have like the normal basket section, and then on the bottom you have like I don't know how you describe it. Like it looks like a car.
Yeah.
Like a vehicle with like a fake wheel and stuff, and there's usually 2 wheels, so like Ari and Aleka can both drive.
Yeah.
And then Evangeline will sit in like the little baby thing facing towards me. And we'll just go like down the aisleways and stuff, and probably don't even buy anything, but maybe just like a couple little things that like, oh yeah, we actually needed some more salt, or like yep, we could use some more laundry detergent. Yeah. So it's just like a random like impromptu shopping trip.
Yeah.
We don't maybe spend $15 or $20. It's enough for them to like get out and look at different things, and I'll take pictures. Like that was a hack Milena came up with, that take a picture of your kid holding something that they want, and then say, all right, when your birthday comes around, we got the picture, we'll remember, you know.
A pack of marshmallows or something.
Yeah, it's just fun. Like the kids love it, and more than anything, you're spending time with each other. So.
Yes.
That's a big takeaway for us.
When he does that, it means so much to me, because sometimes I am nonstop all day until that moment. And so it gives me a chance to recoup my thoughts. And then it gives me a chance to pour into him. Again, these are all things that when he does stuff like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to serve you so bad. I just want to help you. Like,
yes, Milena's cup is getting filled.
Yes.
While she's having some time like by herself.
Yeah, even if that means I am doing the dishes in complete silence. Like, that still is so helpful.
And then when I come home, you know, my face is all like my hair's disheveled, my clothes are tattered. I'm like, honey, I got the kids. Then now she's filled up, ready to go.
Give them to me, I missed them.
Yeah, but obviously we're kind of joking with that. But at the same time, it means a lot to your spouse to take your kids and be like, hey, I got them. Just put your feet up for the next hour and, you know, don't worry about us. Well, worry about us, but don't let it bother you, or don't let it stop you from relaxing too.
All right, last one. Drum roll.
So this might come as a surprise, but husbands, work out and try to eat decently well as much as you can, because like I mentioned earlier, your wife and children, and their physical safety is your responsibility by the Lord. And if you're able-bodied, of course, if there's an injury or disability or something like that, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if you're able-bodied and you're capable, then you should increase your ability to protect and provide that physical safety for your family too. I think that's how God's wired us as husbands. Hot take nowadays, but I'm not saying you have to go be like the biggest, baddest dude and going around looking for a fight and like, hey, did you look at my wife different? Like, get over here. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like do little things, take time to actually invest in your physical and bodily well-being, because it's going to help reinforce for your wife and for your kids that, okay, dad's taking care of us. Like he's doing the things that as much as he can to take care of himself so that he can be there to take care of us, right? It sounds kind of vain or worldly, but Paul says to Timothy that for bodily training is of some value, but spiritual training and godliness is for both valuing this life and the life to come. Meaning there's eternal benefit to spiritual training. But notice how he doesn't say bodily training is of no value. He still says there's value in that. And so while we're here in the world, do that, right? He's saying, how many analogies does Paul give to training yourself and disciplining yourself to like an Olympian athlete or something, like how they'll run a race, right? And get just like a wreath crown, but we're running to a crown of glory. And what a lot of people do, I think, to the detriment of society is they'll say, oh no, Paul's talking about spiritual, like, so I'm just gonna like sit there with my gut hanging out and eating like 20 chili dogs and like, yeah, see, I don't have to worry about this. I need to worry about my spiritual life and totally disregard my like physical health. And I think it's dangerous when people try to put too much emphasis or say like, I need to be an absolute machine. I need to be neglecting my wife and my kids to go out and train for 6 hours a day.
Like everything else, it can be an idol.
Of course, yeah. So I'm trying to walk a tightrope of balancing this between not idolizing it, but also not completely disregarding it and trying to use, a spiritual allegory to everything to say, I don't need to worry about that.
The other thing that people don't realize is that the healthier you eat and the more you work out, the higher your testosterone is. The higher your testosterone is.
There's facts there. We have way too much soy
There's a
and seed
lot
oils.
of facts on that. So if you are a wife and your husband isn't in the same level as you, well, if he could work out a little bit more and eat a little bit healthy, it could literally just be because his hormones are off or imbalanced.
Yeah, there's some micro adjustments there. Like, I just want to mention this point too, because we did like random polls and talked to random people, and we're just asking like, how often do you and your spouse have sex? We won't share that with you guys because we feel like us, like, that's probably a little too intimate unless Milena wants to, but they were saying like once a month or like every couple months, and I'm like,
no.
Bro, like,
no.
There's
you
like,
don't need to have an exact limit, but I'll just say that once a month is substantially not enough.
Yeah, there's definitely a line, and that's on the wrong side of the line there, right?
Yes,
And so
yeah.
I'm not saying it to be some like sex fiend or like worship sex, but you should probably be doing those things. So what Milena's saying is, if that's an issue for you guys, like making some micro subtle adjustments, like maybe working out or adding a little bit of physical activity or changing up what you're eating, here and there, like that can go a long way as Kitty tries to swat me. So again, that's probably more of just a very practical like physical point, but sex is a physical act. So if you want your wife to be drooling over you, like maybe look into how you can improve your physical well-being. All right, like, is that okay to say? Is that too vain? Is that too like, I'm not trying to body shame anyone.
I'm not mad at it.
I'm just trying to say, like, if you're able-bodied and you're serious about like helping to take care of your wife, then there's a place to do that, right? And that's part of that. So we'll end it there.
Thanks, honey. All right, y'all. Go make out with your spouse. Bye.